I'm like shocked that I've never heard about this and that it didn't receive like a ton of attention. I looked for videos on it. I couldn't really find any videos on it either, which again, considering this might be the worst and most devastating case that I've ever read about, and definitely the worst case of stalking that I've ever seen, I really want to talk about it, but I do really hope I can do it justice. A serious warning before we go any further that this involves some really deeply upsetting topics, graphic descriptions of violence, also self-harm and suicide. Don't watch this if you're not in the headspace to hear it. None of this is easy to hear and it will upset you. It upset me a lot. I think it's important to draw attention to this. So my name is Abigail. I make videos on the dark side of technology, AI, and psychology, and this is what emerges from the darkest, coldest corners of the internet. Chloe Seagull was an absolutely brilliant video game developer from Gurnee, Illinois. She single-handedly created and developed all by herself an indie horror game called Homesick, which was released in 2012. The game follows the story of a woman searching for her friends in a house where her family was murdered. It's a short point-and-click style adventure game, and upon entry you can't see anything. It's pitch black, it's dark, and it's scary, but with the help of a flashlight, you can explore the house and discover the shocking truth. Basically, Chloe was extremely talented. She forged authentic weapons. She also made haunting music on occasion. She taught herself to read despite having really severe dyslexia. She's also a social activist, so she volunteered with Habitat for Humanity after Hurricane Katrina. She was really proud of her Romani heritage, and her childhood friend claimed that growing up that they were rambunctious, and he continues that they were the kids who would always get in trouble for climbing trees or sneaking around. So since childhood, Chloe loved adventures and exploring. She loved creating and was a phenomenal artist. And she combined these passions to develop her game. She made the choice to share her talents with the world and made the game available to play online. Chloe, unfortunately, deeply struggled with her mental health, though her struggle cast a shadow over her art. She at times had difficulty communicating with people, but she did have autism, and it was more difficult for her to manage handling appointments or completing tasks and things like that, so this made her successes even more impressive, in my opinion. She faced a distinct lack of support when she attempted to get help time and time again, and forced her to feel isolated in a society with expectations that she was unable to meet, and her mental illness grew more and more relentless, absolutely wreaking havoc in her brain. Everyone with the ability to help just kind of turned their backs on her and utterly and completely failed her. In 2013, Chloe began a crowdfunding campaign on Indiegogo, which is kind of like GoFundMe. She aimed to raise $10,000 in order to get life-saving surgery for what she claimed to be a fatal dose of metal poisoning from a nearly fatal car accident that she was in. She said it left shrapnel in her body and she would die without this surgery. She would die within a matter of months. Mentions in her post that she had a lack of financial support because it was difficult to work when she had, months, not even a year, to live without treatment, and this treatment she couldn't afford. Her family refused to help her due to their disapproval of her, quote, lifestyle choices, because she confided in them that she wasn't straight. So Parents of the Year right there. Says in her post, I don't have time to futz with the system right now. I just need to get this thing out of me. I am a strong and independent woman. I can handle almost anything myself, but I'm setting this aside because I do not want to die from this. I never wanted to resort to just donations as opposed to asking for donations from people who've actually enjoyed my work, but it's clear that this is the best option that I have right now. In addition to raising money to pay for the life-saving surgery, she additionally created a second campaign that was less non-vital, I guess, but that would pay for an additional operation that she needed and would also help her get back on her feet because she would obviously have to recover from surgery and not be able to work for a while, but that would cost $25,000. So she added the second the second Indiegogo campaign in case anyone wants to help more or had extra to spare. She said, it's not vital to my survival, but it is vital to myself and being able to live a normal life. She vowed to donate any additional money that she happened to raise to charity. So the developers of a game called Project Zomboid actually decided to donate all of the proceeds from the sales of their game for 3 days to Chloe's campaign, and they raised over $4,000 to help her out, and this was obviously good. And then after this, her campaign got a lot more positive attention and donations to fund the surgery. But suddenly her Indiegogo campaign just disappeared without any explanation. People asked Indiegogo for clarification on why her campaign had just vanished, and they said that due to their fraud algorithm detecting suspicious activity, her campaign was immediately suspended and all contributors would be immediately refunded. So what happened? The vagueness of this explanation from Indiegogo actually just raised a lot more questions. The Indie Stone said that given the size of their donation, which was over $4,000, the situation was less clear than they felt comfortable with. So they said that they require further details and a satisfactory public explanation for exactly what's going on from either Chloe or Indiegogo. That otherwise they would by necessity have to start looking to take the money away and donate it to a different good cause. So with the threat of losing all the money that she'd raised and increasing public demands for an explanation from either Chloe or Indiegogo, the situation began gaining more public attention, and this was a bit less positive. But it was nothing compared to the unprecedented storm that was about to roll in. It was revealed publicly and confirmed that Chloe had made false claims in her campaign, not actually raising money to remove shrapnel from her body, but instead for gender alteration surgery, because Chloe was a trans woman. Now, while technically she did lie about the specific surgery she needed, every other detail was true. She suffered from gender dysphoria, that of which transitioning is the cure. Surgery is an integral part of that for some trans people, not all, but some, and I don't doubt for a minute that she truly felt as though she had months to live without this surgery. She was honest about the second surgery being needed for her to live a normal life, and it would have been. And if you find yourself being like, well, she still lied, and you can't take people's money for a surgery that's not life-saving, you can't take people's money for something they wouldn't approve of, I'm gonna ask you to please take just a minute and understand the gravity of the effects that gender dysphoria can have on people who suffer with it. If you don't suffer with it, and I don't either, so you'll, like me, never really be able to truly comprehend the agony of it. She was honest about having a lack of financial support and financial support from her family. And more so, I think rather than being upset about her lack of transparency, we should probably ask ourselves why she felt the need to lie about the specific surgery that she needed, because it was a life-saving surgery either way for her, regardless. And she needed it, and she was desperate to live. As she said, she doesn't want to die from this. This was a surgery she could not live without. It should really be that simple. And also, I think we should ask ourselves, why any life-saving surgery would require somebody to crowdfund in the first place. But that's a different conversation completely. So anyway. When people found out that she had been actually raising the money for gender alteration surgery, tons of people who had never heard of Chloe or her game, they were very angry at her. She began to get absolutely hounded by angry, spiteful people online. This was merely the beginning of the horror that she was subjected to. Likely, hopefully, cruelty at such a substantial scale, most of us will never face anything like it in our entire lifetimes. And remember, she was not a public figure. She never made any attempt to become a celebrity or become famous. She was just a really smart, talented game developer who chose to share her game online. She was being absolutely hammered by people who were violently transphobic and who decided to take out all of their hatred and no doubt personal issues onto her from behind their screen. They were absolved of any accountability and they were granted anonymity. In May of 2013, Chloe logged on to the Indie Stone and began typing her final thoughts in a suicide note. She wrote, "And I wanted to say, fuck you to my family, everyone who felt the need to say something nasty to me in the last month, all those people who are so sure they know what's going on with me, the ones who antagonized me for my situation, and those who turned me away. You can't hurt me anymore." She said that she would be setting up a Twitch stream for anyone who wanted to log on and watch her final moments. So then she sat down and she started her live stream on Twitch, and with thousands of people watching, she sat alone in her room in front of her computer, and she took a large number of pills. People sitting in their homes who logged on to watch this woman end her life, take a lethal dose of pills alone in her room, complained that it was boring. Thankfully, because she had wrote and posted the note publicly, the response to save her life was quite fast. So the police were called and she was taken into the hospital in time to save her life. Due to the fact that she survived this, she was further tormented online. People were saying that she was attention-seeking. And I just want to say right here, fuck that, okay? She was desperately in need of help. Desperately in need of help, and that was not being given to her, even though she had asked for it. And if you are having thoughts of suicide, be attention-seeking. Be attention-seeking. Fuck anybody who criticizes you as if being attention-seeking is some sort of bad thing. Those people aren't worth a minute of your energy. You need attention. You need help, and you deserve help. You deserve for people to listen to you, and so did Chloe. Unfortunately, things got monumentally worse after this. A website forum called Kiwi Farms curated a devoted group of psychopathic people who fostered an entire community dedicated to solely making Chloe's life a living hell. If you haven't heard of Kiwi Farms, it's a site kind of similar to 4chan. Fairly large user base of what is effectively internet trolls, but I mean, calling them trolls feels like not accurate enough, I guess. I don't know. They're described as the web's biggest community of stalkers. The users of this site dedicate an absolutely absurd amount of time and resources to target and harm people that they deem as deserving. This includes trans people, people they view as sexually deviant, people with disabilities. They are absolutely relentless in their coordinated and targeted attacks. It's horrible. These people use a bunch of tactics to stalk and harass the people they believe deserve to die. This includes repeatedly doxing the person and their friends and their families. One trans woman who was targeted by this site was forced to move into a hotel after being doxed and threatened over and over and over. She posted a picture that showed the bed sheets at the hotel that she was at, and these people on the site, they went through every hotel in the large area, went through every single one, compared the bedding, and found a hotel that had a bed that matched the bed sheet in the photo. And so they ordered a bunch of pizzas to be delivered to her room under her dead name, under her former name. This was basically just to say, we know exactly where you are. And that is absolutely terrifying. They did more than just doxing, though. They would swat people, which if you don't know what swatting is, they'll call the police, pretending to be the person that they're targeting, and claim that, they're about to commit some horrible crime, or they'll make a mass terror threat or a mass shooting threat. They'll give the police your address. Basically, this essentially leads to the SWAT team and the police breaking into your home, fully prepared to use lethal force, believing they're about to be subjected to a serious imminent threat, or that there's a serious imminent threat to human life, and they're ready to act accordingly, as they should be, I guess. But sometimes people will be swatted while they're live streaming so that psychos can watch this go down live. This has resulted in the targeted person being hurt, being arrested, their family being hurt. It's even resulted in deaths, such as one time they called one in, they tried to swat somebody and they had the wrong address, so they sent the police to just some random man's house. Actually ended up getting shot and died in front of his children. They'll leak all kinds of private information. They'll make false complaints in order to make sure that that person gets fired from their job. They'll spread all kinds of lies and rumors to the person's real friends and family. They'll leak inappropriate photos or anything that they can find. Their ultimate goal is to get the person to commit suicide. That is their end goal. They even include a kill count on the site that tracks the number of people they've driven to suicide. When this number increases, it is thrilling to them, and always followed by celebrations and reinforcement to keep going, keep that number growing. Chloe became a target of this site, and that meant a storm of horror and relentless torment that I literally can't even begin to fathom. The thing about Kiwi Farms is they don't get bored. They will not stop until you die. So they tormented her for years of torture. Kiwi Farm users also went to tremendous lengths to make it impossible for Chloe to get any kind of help. Anytime she would talk about suicide, they would all coordinate to all report her Facebook page and get it locked down. They followed her everywhere she went. They followed her online, platform to platform, and they followed her in real life as well, stalking her and threatening her and scaring her. This effectively destroyed her life, and it destroyed her mental stability, as it would anyone's. In March of 2017, she was hospitalized for attempting suicide again. Her friend who visited her in the hospital while she was there, they gave their contact information to the hospital. They said they want to be her emergency contact. They asked to please be contacted if anything happened in the future. In June of 2018, police responded to a report that Chloe had wanted to harm herself, and they arrived to her home where they found her absolutely distraught, and she was holding a machete. But they managed to successfully defuse the situation, and she was taken by ambulance to Unity Center for Behavioral Health. This is the same hospital that she was at the year before, where her friend had been there and given his contact information to be her emergency contact. But he was never contacted by the hospital. They never reached out, they never let him know. Even worse is she spent 2 entire days sitting in triage and was never properly hospitalized. She was ultimately released and sent out into the street. She had nowhere to go. The people that she had been living with had decided that they didn't really want to care for her anymore, so she was essentially taken to a hospital where she sat for over 40 hours in triage, never hospitalized, just sent out onto the street homeless. This is horrendous. I mean, what the actual... This girl was failed over and over and over and over again. That same day, a Monday, she called most of her friends and she spoke with them. She also wrote 2 notes, which she left at the house that she'd been staying at before. One of these notes appeared to be a suicide note. She said, "Whoever needs my van or the things in it should have it. It's parked around the corner, the keys are in the mailbox, and the title's in the van. My death cannot be silent. It has to be loud and political. My entire life, my experience, and my education has led up to this moment. I can only expect trauma and death from my existence." Which is so, so, so sad. She then walked into the park in Lonsdale Square in Portland, Oregon, and she carried papers with her. She sat down in the grass. There were a fair number of people around. It was a warm afternoon. It was sunny. The wind began to blow the papers away, but she gathered them and she looked at her writing on their pages. She looked at them for several minutes before she began to read the words aloud. She spoke of homelessness and mental health issues, speaking softly at first, but as she continued to read, she got louder until she was screaming her message. She said that people have the right to housing, that when somebody goes into police custody and they end up being killed or hurt, abused and hurt, that many times people are jailed for crimes of necessity. Then Chloe got out a gallon bottle of what appeared to be dirty water and lifted it above her head and began pouring it over her entire body. People looked on, and one person said that they thought maybe she was just really hot and was trying to cool down. She then pulled out a blue lighter from her pocket, and within a split second she was engulfed in flames, screaming and burning alive. One man sprang into action immediately. He ripped his shirt off and began attempting to put the fire out, but he said it just would not go out. Another man and his business partner had been sitting across the park. They'd been parked nearby in their car. They ran over with a bunch of water, as much as they had. Another witness found a fire extinguisher. A sheriff's deputy joined in an attempt to put the fire out. Finally, they managed to put out the fire. Chloe sat surrounded now by a crowd. She was in shock and hyperventilating. Witnesses said her skin was peeled off and bright white. They asked her why she had done it, and she said it was because she was homeless and she didn't know what else to do. She was taken to a hospital, but she died shortly after. Now, burns are said to be the most painful thing you can experience, not to mention being fully engulfed in flames, burning alive, and worse, still was that she was still alive for a little while afterward. And she was also, you know, awake and coherent enough to answer the witnesses questioning her, the people questioning her, like, why did you do this? She was able to answer that and explain why she did it. I can't even begin to imagine the pain and the fear. Her skin had been all burned off. She would have been blind. She would have been in unfathomable pain. This is truly so devastating. She set herself on fire, and their kill count went up by 1. They celebrated. They said it was less boring this time. Chloe was brilliant. She deserved so much more than what she got, and she was failed so many damn times. Even until her last breath from her burning lungs, she fought for other people. Her last message before she set herself on fire was not about the relentless torture and torment that she had endured. Instead, she expressed concerns for other people. Even in that moment, she worried more about others than herself. She used her voice, which had been stolen from her, over and over and over, and she used it in the hopes of helping other people not go through what she went through. To not have to face the hopelessness of being demonized by a society, and the ultimate irony of being treated as some sort of demon by a ruthlessly evil society that would leave the devil scared. Didn't want anyone else to be failed by the system that failed her. And when you turn away from the countless stories like this, and you claim you're the victim of drag queen story times and family restrooms, you're contributing to the coordinated destruction of people who are suffering and people who are vulnerable by spinning narratives that villainize people for wanting to be able to live comfortably and happily in peace, their actions affecting you not one bit. You construct the foundation, and what emerges through the cracks of the broken concrete is this: an unmatched level of evil and hatred and sadism, bar none. So Kiwi Farms was actually very recently, last month, successfully taken down after Keffels, a Twitch streamer who had become a target of the site, the newest target of the site, managed to get Cloudflare to refuse Kiwi Farms its services. So that essentially shut the website down permanently. This is an enormous deal for multiple reasons. Hearing about Kiwi Farms being shut down was actually how I heard about Chloe and her story and the other victims of this site. I think it's important to talk about this, to draw attention to it, uncensored, unaltered, because these are real people behind those screens who wake up and go to work, who have friends, who have family. They may be a member of their church, maybe they coach their son's baseball team, and they just get to go live these normal lives while depriving their victims of the same right. These people are guarded and shielded by anonymity, and the idea that they're uncontrollable, the idea that the internet is the Wild West, like it's a free-for-all, like this is the purge or something. I want to see these people and their abhorrent comments and forum posts come up when you Google their names. I want their employers to see it. I want their families to see it. I want their friends to see it. When there's no consequences, no laws, virtually zero effect on these people's real lives, they will continue. And even with Kiwi Farms dead, more sites will emerge from the woodwork, like they always do. I want to draw attention to this because these trolls are human beings. They aren't special. They aren't untouchable. They are protected by this illusion that they are some large, unstoppable force. They aren't. They're weak, and they're pathetic. They're dangerous, and they're cruel, but ultimately, they're cowards. That's all I really have to say. If you're still here, thank you for sticking with me through this. I know this wasn't easy to listen to, but it did happen, and she wanted her message heard and talked about. Thank you for watching again. Subscribe if you like. Check out my other videos. They aren't as heavy. Be safe out there. Bye.